but there will be, like I said, there'll be plenty of people who will, you know, they'll play the game. It doesn't matter what kind of game it turns into, they'll play it.
Yeah, so I mean, the way that I look at this progression that's gone on over the last 200-300 years is it's just, every 50 years or so we put another bullet in the chambers, spin the cylinder, and pull the trigger. And so, yeah, okay, we've made it through World War I, World War II, made it through the Cuban Missile Crisis, made it through the financial collapse of 1987, 2001, and all the while we put another bullet in the chamber and keep spinning the cylinders. So one of these days, we're going to spin it, and our number's going to be on that bullet. You know what I mean? You can't get lucky forever. I mean, we've just got a confluence of factors. There's too many things that are wrong right now. It's an aggregation of too many. There's too many fucking bullets in the chamber. We talked about the credit collapse earlier. You gave your solution for that. Talked about overpopulation. Talked about peak oil. Talked about where the hell's the food going to come from. Survival of suburbia, et cetera, et cetera. There's just, you know what I mean? It's too big a problem to solve at this point. It's ramified. It's like that Hydra with multiple-headed Hydra. It's got too many heads on the damn thing. You chop one off, it just grows another one. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, I just want to comment on James. What the hell is that crap? I mean, 10 ways to love your God. I mean, that was just horrible. Get to know your God. What has your God told you, James, really? Come on, what? Your penis is too small, James. You're a failure. I suggest you live a celibate life like a little toad and just pretend that you're going somewhere and doing something and just whisper little words because people like you to whisper and such. And because, you have a small penis, so you probably should be humble and whisper a lot because you have a very small penis. You're really pointless. You know that, James, don't you? James, you know you're really pointless. Aliens and God. Well, okay, that's now your question. Now that's acceptable. That's like saying mush is Fritz.
That's the same revelation.
Okay.
That's written in the Bible.
Yeah, Danny might go up there, but I'll just kick you instead. Yeah. Oh, that was fun. Yeah, I like it.
So I don't know if that's too pessimistic or I don't think it's nihilistic. I think it's realistic. But maybe I'm just being too short-sighted. I'm not rising up to the challenge of this debate and trying to find solutions to all these problems. But I don't see it.
Yeah, well, the solutions are going to be tricky because we don't know exactly how it's going to fall apart. And it could go so many ways. How the end times. Because what happens? Like say Pakistan. Let's say it got. Things get really, really bad there, and the real hardliner, right-wing lunatics take over. I mean, the world can get really fucked up really fast. I mean,
I see the arguments for the optimist side. Sorry, and the pessimist side, because we haven't reached critical mass yet with most of the issues. We're getting there, but most scientists believe we haven't reached the tipping point yet for the global warming, and a lot of economists believe that we can still pull back from the edge. So I can see both sides of it. It's just, what is actionable, and are we taking action on it? And I think the current administration is doing some actionable things that are truly making a difference. If you go and look at the number of jobs that have been created, I know job unemployment is still at 9.5%, but look at jobs created. More than 500,000 jobs been created. Textiles are up. So there's a lot of things that have been done and have yet to manifest themselves from the TARP program.
Oh, whatever. It's complete nonsense and mush. It's all temporary work. It might as well just be a welfare check. No, there's not enough infrastructure to it, so it's meaningless. Like I said, you need a bigger project than that. You need you know, some consolidated effort. This little piecemeal, all over the place stuff, it won't have any life. I mean, it would make sense if we were going into it like after the war, you know, after the Great Depression. TARP kind of makes sense because all you need is any kind of investment. But that's not the world we're heading to. We're not an economic power. We're outcompeted in the rest of the world. We're at a complete disadvantage. You know, we got to, you know, well, whatever. I mean, there's things that we can do that we're not going to do, but we're going in the wrong direction. This whole healthcare thing and everything else, it was a good time to start talking about realistic expectations. People have just totally unrealistic expectations.
Yeah, I don't, you know, I'm glad, you know, textiles are coming back, and, you know, the other stats you quoted, Spaz, are, you know, I'm happy for that. I'd like to see this country prosper and rise again. But, you know, I mean, I think a large part of the economic edifice is false. I think it really can be compared quite appropriately to a house of cards or a Ponzi scheme. You know, you could choose one of those metaphors, but I don't believe in the statistics that the government is putting out. I don't know if you've ever heard of a website called shadowstats.com. It's run by John Williams, but he gives the real statistics on things like the true unemployment rate, the true inflation rate, and the true GDP, and they're radically different than the numbers that the government is putting out.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's all, you know, it's lies everywhere about everything, you know, distortions of the reality. Um, you know, I think if people really understood.
Gary, how is the economy has the economy affected your lifestyle at all, given that you don't go out much, so you say?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's, you know, I guess you could say. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you know, I'm not, you know, I'm working more for less money, which isn't good. Um, but yeah, I can't say my bills are all that much more expensive, and I think I'm saving money on the cigarette thing because I'm doing the e-cigarette thing, even though, you know, I've been burning through atomizers pretty quick. What was I going to say? I can just see it on the horizon. I mean, I'm not terribly afraid for the short term, but I really don't care, which is part of it. So, I mean, yeah, I'm sort of in the mood for an excuse to get the hell out. Like I said, I'm kind of looking for a war, just so I could volunteer, you know, to be in the, you know, yeah, okay, fine. Put me in, yeah, tie me in front of the tank. Use me as a cannonball, even. I don't care.
Family dinners must be very interesting with you.
Yeah, well, I don't do that. I only do that like once a year. But yeah, they are interesting. You know, when family's here, it is fun.
He's also available for children's parties and bar mitzvahs.
Local only. And I'll clean the pool. You know, that's it. I'll do the bar mitzvah and I'll clean the pool.
You should start a Kevorkian type of life.
Yeah, well, you know, I sort of am doing the advocacy for such issues, but yeah, obviously the Kevorkian's plan didn't work out too well, and I'm not a doctor, so they'll throw me in jail even faster.
You know, off the record, they do implement. I mean, it's not policy, of course, but when somebody's near death, if you're using a home health care worker to take care of a loved one who's dying at home from a terminal illness, if they're using something like a morphine bolus, where they can press a button to give themselves more of the morphine from their stick that's in their vein. It's computerized, and they can only give themselves so much so that they can't kill themselves. But when it gets to a certain point, the nurse will show you how to, I don't know if it's in every case, but probably in a lot of cases, the nurse will show you how to override the computer with just a few simple steps. So you can, or the patient can give themselves enough morphine to put themselves into a coma and ultimately die.
Especially if they're going to be kicked out of hospice or something, and the paychecks are going to stop. They'll even more likely to give them a way out. It really is a medical industrial complex, though. As long as there's a patient to make money off of, they'll try to keep it alive, and that's pretty pitiful. Yeah, I mean, to me, it's affected me personally in a way, because the last 5 or 6 or 7 years of the, person I've been, personal, whatever, significant thing, she just got totally caught up in this kind of crap, this taking care of dead parents, and it's just insane, what people will. I don't even want to get into it, but yeah, I mean, this whole psychology of non-acceptance, and no one ever fixes it. These are people too. Like even my parents will talk about how they're 90 years old. They talk about how people should have the right to die and blah blah blah, but they'll never vote for it. You know what I mean? It never gets done because nobody votes to have that power and that control. And so they somehow think that somehow it's not going to happen to them, and everybody just keeps leaving themselves vulnerable to this shit. It's just really stupid. So there's Chris. I don't know if there was a fake Zomgits before, but I guess not. I guess it was the real one.
No, it was me. The thing where you give the patient the password so they can dose up their morphine and kill themselves. That's I think it's called passive euthanasia. I'm not sure, but it's illegal in most countries. And I mean, here, for instance, no fucking nurse would risk going to jail for 10 years just to help a patient with that. It's just a very few countries in Europe where this is legal, where you can either stop the antibiotics or you can, give the patient the password to dose up the morphine.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's cases where we know it happens, where the doctor just says prescribe it because he can do it. He can rationalize it and justify it. So he can say, look, it wasn't deliberate death. This was necessary. So they can do something. So it gets done. I'm just saying, but it's a tiny percentage of people have that circumstantial luxury. Most people aren't going to be trapped in some sort of other system or other mechanism that's not going to give them their, exactly, it's going to be a law against it, or there's going to be a prohibition against it, and so they're going to be stuck to the machine. Once they have them in the process, you can't get out of the process. And the process is insidious. I mean, I use this.
I think you locked up, Gary.
I think you lagged out. Anyway, Zomgrits, it does happen a lot, and they're not risking anything because there's no paper trail or anything. What they simply do is show the family member, how to override it. So it's their word versus theirs. If there would be any litigation afterwards, and why there would be, I don't know. So it's not as though there's a paper trail or anything like that. They show them how to do it, and so it's not the nurse doing it. So they limit their exposure liability that way.
I don't know where you live or where you get this, but I was actually about to make a video on this, and I did a lot of research, and this is just not happening. If you do it, then that's murder. If a family member does this, it's I don't know what.
Yeah, right.
I don't remember what the. Yeah, but also the nurses. When you have to dose up the morphine, there is a code. I mean, if you go in any hospital and you can ask around to see that. And for a nurse to give the code to a family member, that nurse is also susceptible to be punished for it. I mean, to say that this happens commonly is just, I don't know, it's wishful thinking, but it does not happen commonly. Not when there's a law against it.